This season obviously has been a struggle for the Los Angeles Rams, but it has equally been a struggle for the Arizona Cardinals. Those two teams will match up, both struggling at the bottom of the NFC West, not the Seahawks. The Rams and the Cardinals are in a battle for last place in the NFC West. The Niners slightly above both teams, but the Rams, they had a loss this past week, a tough, hard luck loss as they went down to Tampa. Arizona, another one in the loss column for them as well. And we look at the season that Kyler Murray is having, and you just signed that extension, and it's not what the Arizona Cardinals signed up for. They gave those extensions to Keim and Kliff too, and we asked ourselves, why are they doing that? And we're seeing kind of the results of those extensions come to fruition, and it's not good for the Arizona Cardinals. The Rams aren't good. I don't feel any sort of confidence on either of these teams. And I'm curious mostly hear your thoughts. I know you track the Cardinals a little bit closer than I do. So I'd like to hear kind of what people in your circles have been saying about this team, and if there is any kind of optimism.
No, the Seahawks loss was kind of the resignation point for the season, which was like, we can see this thing is headed towards like the train is headed towards, if you've ever seen Back to the Future, you know how like in the end of the third movie, the train's headed towards a track that doesn't exist. You can kind of see that that's the thing that's happening. Losing twice to Seattle was kind of the thing that put it over the cliff. No pun intended. But at this point, Kliff is not going to return as the head coach. Seems pretty clear at this point. How long of a leash they give him is a different question. We talked about this in the Colts video that we did, which is when you have a bottom five offense, you can make a case for firing any coach. So I think that's the piece that's going to fall. From Cardinal circles, I think that had Kyler Murray not gotten that extension this offseason, there would be more conversation about moving on from the quarterback. I know Walter Mitchell, the person I record the show with, he's got some inside information where there's a divide in the locker room a little bit between guys who are pro Kyler and guys who are a little upset with Kyler. They respect him, no, certainly. Like they've seen some of the leadership, but don't like the hard-headedness in terms of his inability to adapt and change. But I think altogether, it's kind of just been a careening course at this point for Arizona. And there's not really much left to hang their hat on. JJ Watt's probably going to leave in free agency after this season. DeAndre Hopkins' future is kind of up in the air for either a potential contract extension or a trade situation. That'll be something that gets worked out over the offseason. I know teams were calling and asking them about Hopkins at the deadline to not much of a return on Arizona's end. Makes sense given that they don't really know who the decision maker is going to be next year for them. But this season is kind of a resignation for the Cardinals at this point. And even as such, I feel like they're going to feel kind of yucky if they lose this game to the Rams. But I also think the Rams are going to feel yucky if they lose this game to the Cardinals.
So according to Vegas, the Rams are a 3-point favorite, but this is a home game. So they are a 3-point favorite at home, which means Vegas has no kind of confidence in either of these teams either. It says they're about the same. Looking at the base level stats, the Rams have just really one of the worst offenses in the league. They couldn't get it done outside of a Cooper Kupp touchdown for 70 yards. That was their whole offense in that game. That was it. If you look at the second half stats, I know you mentioned them in like our group chat, but the second half stats for the Rams were atrocious. It's unbelievable that an NFL offense, a Sean McVay offense, an offense of the defending Super Bowl champions, can be that bad.
-2 yards. They had -2 yards of offense in the fourth quarter against the Bucs.
No, kind of obviously we're not NFL players. We're barely football players. We're barely any kind of athlete. -2 yards. You think if just someone just gave us 10 opportunities to run the ball up the middle, we could have got at least 2?
No. What would have happened if that happened is that on 5 of those plays, we would have shit our pants and started crying. And on 4 of those other plays, we would have fumbled. And one of those plays, we would have dropped the snap.
Okay. You're fair. My ACL is just hurting thinking about that opportunity. But either way, 16.4 points per game. That's what the Rams are averaging on the season. You compare the Cardinals, at least the Cardinals, you could say, are averaging 22.6, so almost a touchdown more per game. The defensive metrics kind of favor the Rams a little bit more than the Cardinals. They are allowing 40 less passing yards per game. They are allowing almost 30 less rushing yards per game. But the problem for the Rams, too, is they have no way of taking advantage of any kind of Arizona run defense, because the Rams, their rushing offense as a whole, is averaging 68 yards a game. This is between their committee of Cam Akers, Darryl Henderson, Rivers, that a guy that they just threw out there a couple weeks ago off their practice squad. Ronnie Rivers, I want to say, is his full name. Either way, I don't give a shit. The Rams offense, their running game is dismal. They were trying to get rid of Cam Akers. Cam Akers didn't even want to be there, and they're just now having to throw him out there because they couldn't even get a trade partner to facilitate that move. So they've made concessions there. Cooper Kupp, he looked healthy, so I don't have any reason to think that he's not healthy going into this game. But who else? Who else on this Rams team is going to step up? Because we thought Allen Robinson.
There's nobody left.
Skowronek, scratch. Higbee hasn't been the same since he hurt his neck a couple weeks ago. Scratch. Stafford's been awful. I know we've mentioned the injury thing, but regardless, if he's going to play, he's got to play better. He made some deep balls the last game. He was in fact overthrowing guys in this game against the Buccaneers. Yeah. So it wasn't a question of arm strength. It was just a question of accuracy and the question of the decision making, because he's still turning the ball over at a rate unbecoming a franchise veteran quarterback, which we're going to talk about unbecoming turnovers for a quarterback of that type. Kyler Murray, too, had a horrible fumble in this last game that cost them. We've seen his running style, how he holds the ball. It's not how you should run the ball at any coach worth his salt. Kliff Kingsbury not being one of them. Would have probably coached that out of him a long time ago. Talk about willingness to change an offense. Kyler, that's probably the biggest thing you probably point towards. Why are you still holding the ball like that at the NFL level? That's one of the things you can take away from that Seattle game with him. I don't even know. Last week we called the Rams game against the Bucs a mid-off. What is this? A sat-off?
Like I said, both teams are gonna feel yucky if they lose. They're gonna be like, oh God, we lost to the Rams, or oh God, we lost to the Cardinals. Both teams are gonna feel gross if they lose this game, but that's kind of the place they find themselves in. And
yeah,
to the point about the Rams, we've talked about this before. It's personnel with the Rams. The problem is roster based. Coming into the year, Cooper Kupp was like used on 51% of their plays. Like the entire offense is Cooper Kupp. And, you know, we've disagreed on the Stafford point where you've said a couple times, if you're going to play, you've got to play better. And I've been screaming, he shouldn't be playing. He should not be playing at all. He should have sat from the start of the season, but he's just crazy tough guy who played with a broken
wide receiver, back. You could throw it to the wide receiver on time.
He shouldn't be playing. This is the guy who played with a broken back. Like, just he should not be playing at this point. Shouldn't have been playing since week 1. He had 4 different injuries that he was dealing with, and it was the first week of the season. But like, the problem with the Rams is personnel. The thing you can hang your hat on defensively is the stars, which is Jalen Ramsey's going to be one-on-one with DeAndre Hopkins. That should lean in your favor.
Is he?
Aaron?
Is he? Because we've seen this throughout this season. It's so often they seem to like to move Jalen Ramsey around the field. And while you would say lock him on DeAndre Hopkins makes sense, we haven't seen Jalen Ramsey locked on a lot of guys. Yeah. Raheem Morris loves to move Jalen Ramsey around for better or for worse. And a lot of times it seems like worse for the Los Angeles Rams.
Well, then maybe they won't. And I guess the flip side I just assumed that they would one-on-one him with Hopkins. Why wouldn't you do that given what the Cardinals offense looks like at this point? But maybe they won't going into this game. And
if you haven't done something like that throughout the year, I don't think you're going to do it here.
I get that. The interior pass block of the Cardinals is atrociously bad, like somehow almost worse than last year when like Max Garcia was trying to block Aaron Donald in a playoff game. Max Garcia is not even healthy for the Cardinals now. So it's like a 6th round rookie and Billy Price, Billy Price is a former 1st round pick who's played on 3 teams in 4 years. You know, that's a bad situation to have there, but Aaron Donald might get some pass rush on him. I don't know. Like maybe the Rams will scrape together some points. This is a situation where the game could totally get out of hand for the Rams if the Cardinals offense looks like what the Cardinals offense looked like against the Saints. But Cardinals play, as my buddy Walter calls it, it's crawl ball, man. They put Kyler in like a box within 10 yards, and that's the offense they want to work in. There's a reason they're ranked 29th in the league this year. So kind of a toss up, but I'm gonna take the Rams because Vegas says they're 3-point favorites, and I'm gonna play the probabilities on this one because everything is pointing to this game kind of being like a boring game where both teams are going to feel gross at the end of it.
Here's one prediction that I can 100% guarantee is correct. I will not be tuning into this game on Sunday. Anyway, but my prediction for this game on Sunday might surprise you. I think I'm going to go with the Cardinals. And my rationale behind it, so James Conner, I know he came back from injury this past week, so they got James Conner back. Maybe that helps their running game a little bit. I just think they can put up more points than the Rams. I think that the Rams, where they are at this point of the season, again, I mentioned it, they're putting up 16 points a game. If you're telling me that that's where they're at least the last couple of weeks with DeAndre Hopkins, the Cardinals have looked like they can move the ball a little bit more efficiently. It seems like they're just force feeding DeAndre, which I get it. He's DeAndre Hopkins. You want to feed your star wide receiver. But we start to see them also work in Rondale Moore a little bit into the offense too. I think he had a season high in catches last week. So you're starting to see a little bit more Rondale Moore. You're starting to see a little bit of DeAndre Hopkins. The running game is getting healthier for them. I think I can point to more pieces on their offense and say, okay, I could see that working out. And defensively, Cooper Kupp is going to get his. Fine. Let him have his. That's what every other NFL team is doing right now with the Rams. Sure, let Cooper Kupp beat us. We don't give a damn. Have you seen the rest of this roster on offense? Go ahead. Bad. Cooper Kupp, get your 10 catches for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. Because I can tell you, Skoranek, Higbee, Allen Robinson, Cam Akers, these guys aren't beating us. So you, Cooper Kupp. Those factors kind of result in me concluding that I think the Cardinals, at least this week, I feel a little bit more confident in them. So I'm going to take the Cardinals. You got the Rams. One team is going to fall to the bottom of the NFC West. So we're going to at least get rid of this tie for the last spot in that division. Anyway, guys, what do you think? Who do you think is going to get the win in Los Angeles? Is it going to be the Rams? Is it going to be the Cardinals? You want to talk about just the deficiencies on both these teams? Maybe you're a Rams or Cardinals fan that could give us a little bit more insight on this situation. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on all our social medias. Stay safe, happy, and healthy. From Kyle Ledbetter and Juju, we will see you next time.